National Ministry of Water Affairs and Sanitation, including the Minister, Newzroom Afrika, who's been visiting areas in Gauteng this week to look at issues around water. Residents haven't been able to get water out of their taps. The Ministry went to South Hills and Joburg. Residents say they haven't had water for over 30 days. That's an entire month. Yesterday, Newzroom Afrika, the Minister was in Soshanguve. He spoke to residents about the problems they have there. He's been to other places as well. As you know, residents in Gauteng have had all sorts of issues with water over the last few weeks. The Deputy Minister of Water Affairs and Sanitation is Nra Mahlobo. He's been part of these visits and he joins you now. Deputy Minister, good afternoon to you and thank you for your time. When you look at the problems around Gauteng, how do you assess the situation? How bad is it?
The situation, Stephen, in our own words, is untenable because the citizens in Gauteng, in certain parts of Gauteng, they've been subjected to instances of intermittent supply, but certain instances, they have not been having water for quite some time. And we could see that the water services authorities, which the municipalities and the metros have been struggling. We then decided to come closer to the situation as the Ministry of Water and Sanitation led by Comrade Newzroom. We then visited the areas that you alluded to. We have indicated that we want the executive mayors to take a full responsibility and leadership to ensure that their administration and their water entities or water service providers are able to live up to the situation where they provide water. And there is a commitment because the Mayor of Johannesburg, later on in the meeting with the ministry and the Gauteng government, including the people of South Hill, they were part of our engagement. Yesterday, the minister went to Soshanguve and myself, and the Mayor of Tshwane was there, and there was also Ekurhuleni, and Deputy Minister Shabalala also went to Ekurhuleni. What we have decided is that the system has been very vulnerable, Stephen, in terms of the water that is available in the reservoirs. The reservoirs this morning, they've improved, but they have not reached a healthy state. The healthy state is between 60% to 70%. There is an improvement between 20 to around the 50-something%, but other reservoirs, they are beyond that particular level. And certain parts are starting to get water because it's a decision that we took, that our technical teams of rainwater, the 3 metros and the departmental officials, they are meeting every morning, look at the telemetry and the cadastral so that they can be able to balance the system, whether in terms of the pressure reducing, whether in terms of the load shifting. And in the afternoon, they are going to do the same. That's one component in terms of the stabilization of the system. But we need concrete plans from the municipalities. Rainwater, in the beginning, before summer season started, asked all municipalities to plan for the summer season on the basis of high consumption, that is ranging around 300 liters per person per day, so that we can be able to reduce it. Therefore, those plans that we have received, they have a lot of gaps. And yesterday we said to them, let's produce the concrete plan on how to reduce the consumption. Especially Johannesburg is very, very high, and Tshwane is also very high. Ekurhuleni, the consumption is within the limit. But the problem is that you can't be within the limit when there are certain citizens that don't get water. But the other matter we must plan well is the management of the system on the basis of power trips and load shedding. Because if the team, they don't synchronize the system well, most of the time they will not have enough lag time to ensure that water is there. The last point, Stephen, the role of citizens. Firstly, government must communicate to these municipalities that this is the level of water, these are the actions they need to be able to take, but enforce bylaws. We can't have affluent areas where they do unwise water use, especially the issues of irrigation, the issues of washing of the cars. That's why we say they must monitor that, include the restrictions where necessary, but manage the pressure during the nightfall, Stephen.
There are many different players in all of this, and one of the issues is that there's no real shortage of water in Gauteng, Deputy Minister. So the Vaal Dam's around 85% full. The Sterkfontein Dam, which supplies the Vaal Dam, has been hovering around 99% full. So when we talk to Rand Water, they say the problem is that the national department, so your department, puts a limit on how much water they can take out of the Vaal Dam. And the reason you do that is because you need to prepare for a long drought in the future. So where's the problem? Is the problem with the limits? I mean, do you accept what Rand Water is saying? Is the problem that the municipalities are losing too much water? You say that people are using 300 litres a day. That's basically, a lot of that water is wasted, right? And up to maybe 42% is what Rand Water says. So where is the problem? Is the problem with the limit that you impose? I understand why you impose it. Is the problem with Rand Water, or is the problem with the local councils?
Well, Stephen, the issue of water, you will have to look from the entire value chain, from the abstraction, from the source until to the tap. We are absolutely correct. The integrated valve system that draws water from KwaZulu-Natal, Mpumalanga, and including Lesotho, it has about 14 systems that feeds them. The water in that system is adequate. Rand Water was licensed, Stephen, to be able to actually abstract about 4,136 megalitres per day. That is their abstraction license. Minister Mkhunu, when there was a problem at the beginning, was able to say Rand Water can abstract more because the design capacity for the Rand Water treatment system, whether in Zegerposh that can treat about 3,800 megalitres per day, whether the Vereeniging system that can treat more than 1,200. They can treat about exactly about more than 5,200 megalitres. But the problem you have, Stephen, in the water value chain, when the population grew here, then there is issues of climate change, high temperatures. The investment in the storage facilities, whether it's command reservoirs, whether it comes to secondary reservoirs or tertiary reservoirs, that is in the municipality. That work was behind schedule. That's why Rand Water, we must commend them because in terms of additional capacity, there's a pump station 5 somewhere in the Vaal that is giving us additional 110 megalitres. And then you had this one in Vlakfontein, Stephen, where the reservoir there that supply Bruleni, Tshwane and certain parts of Mpumalanga can take additional is 210. But when you move with the system up to a municipal system, municipalities never increase their reservoirs on the basis that the population, as you know, 5 years ago in Gauteng were not 16 million. That's one component. And these municipalities are working on that. And the other thing on the reservoirs, they use the gravitational force, but the high-lying areas, in the high-lying areas, some of them, like here in Tshwane, they have started to put the pumps so that you can be able to boost the issues of the movement. Then there's the issues of losses, Stephen. We are absolutely correct. In as much as they take so much in the system, they are losing about 30% to 42%. That's going to have an impact on the end side of the system in terms of the users not receiving water, but they're also losing. And we've said that let's review the grants, give them a once-off, replace that old infrastructure. If they can't do that, then the water boards can use their own balance sheet to assist them to replace old infrastructure, but with a revenue component. Okay. That's what we are actually dealing with. But the issues of all these municipalities, in our own engagement and the plan we're expecting, they still have to give us the water balance. In other ways, each and every drop from the abstraction to the end point and back into the system, they must be able to account for it. Those are some of the things that, Stephen, we're looking at to say, in the short term, stabilize the system for the next 3 months without problems, increase the capacity of storage so that you can have lead time. Even if we have load shedding, load tripping, you can keep what? At above 60 to 70%, at least for 48 hours,
okay.
Stephen.
One of the issues around all of this, and as I say, there are a lot of role players, and your powers in this are sort of limited. Local government plays quite a big role in all of this. But one of the people who I would have thought would be in all of the meetings over the last few weeks would be the mayor of Joburg, Kabelo Gwamanda. And there was reporting that there were 2 meetings last week that he was not in, and a suggestion that your Minister Senzor Mchunu was quite frustrated about this. The meeting in South Hills this week, the councillor for that area said this week that Kabelo Gwamanda did not arrive at that meeting. Has the mayor of Joburg been doing what he should have been doing? Has he been taking this seriously enough in your view?
I know that the meetings were all the mayors that we convened, so that we actually had preempted that during this period we'll have the problems. The mayor of Johannesburg was not available, but in a meeting we held after the minister went to South Hill in the evening, that I also attended, the executive mayor was there, and he has committed to take full responsibility. As the Minister of Water, we welcome that. And we're working well also with the entity for water in Johannesburg, which is Joburg and Johannesburg Water. And we're very pleased between their cooperation and with the Department of Water and Sanitation and Rainwater. But we are absolutely correct. These matters must be handled at the highest levels of the executive authority, while this technical team that involves CEOs, the Director Generals, they must oversee the strategic and program management of stabilizing the system. Then the operators must interact every day in the morning and afternoon so that citizens can't be exposed to what we have exposed them over the last few weeks.
One of the strange things about all of this, Deputy Minister, and I appreciate what you say, and it's an interview which I think has given our viewers much information, but some of the press releases and some of the comments about what we've seen this year are almost exactly for what we saw last year. You know, at almost exactly the same time. In fact, a little bit earlier this year, by my count. I think last year was the first week of October, where we saw in Gauteng, the sun got hotter and hotter, consumption went up, and there were water problems in Joburg. Exactly the same thing has happened this year. Do you believe we've learnt any lessons that will make sure this doesn't happen again next year?
You know, we have to do what we call it enforcement to change behavior. One of the things that will have to be much stricter as the department is that the Water Services Authorities, Stephen, as mandated by the laws of the land, let them discharge their job. But as a ministry, we even went to cabinet. We've reached a stage, Stephen, that if they don't do their job, we shall intervene and intervene decisively so that citizens can't be exposed to this thing. And there's an agreement with the Minister of Culture and the Minister of Finance. But Stephen, this thing that is happening in Gauteng, it happened in Cape Town, where there's a will, both politically and also the citizens also cooperating. The behavior of citizens of Cape Town averted the collapse of the system, the possibility of a day zero. Their consumption levels, Stephen, were beyond the South African average. But I can tell you today, on the basis of the change of behavior, the consumption is low. Not only the change of behavior, but even from a planning point of view, in future, Stephen, we can't continue to build houses and have some of the material or the equipment like the toilets that is flashing 20 liters. It shouldn't happen. Yeah. You can't have the public areas and the public facilities where those taps that are there, they are not pressured. Therefore, the issue of improving devices and efficiencies, even from the building industry, it is one of those particular components. But the enforcement of bylaws, using issues of law enforcement agencies of those municipalities, but also using technology. But at the very same time, those who manage the system, if they are managing it well, they can be able to reduce pressure on areas where citizens are abusing the system. But also there are penalties.
Deputy Minister, I really appreciate the time. Thank you. Deputy Minister David Mahlobo, the Deputy Minister of Water Affairs and Sanitation. So that's the situation regarding water in Gauteng. In a moment, the situation regarding electricity.